Please note that this is going to be a video that probably pisses off a lot of people because I'm going to be talking, or at least skirting the topics of ComicSgate and anti-ComicSgate, and generally be talking just flow of consciousness, and that's going to piss off some people because my phrasing will not be 100% perfect every time around. Now, with that said, originally this video was supposed to be my X-Men think piece on how they represent all minorities and yet don't represent any minorities. Because there's something very simple about, yes, you can say, oh, it represents all the black community, or it represents the Islamophobia apparent since 9/11, or even gun control laws. It's easy to go with that as an answer, and they are. And yet, at the same time, there's something very different about going, okay, let's regulate guns more versus let's regulate people more. You know what I mean? And that video may still come out. No, this is actually a response or me trying to explain something very simple that everyone on the planet kind of knew until more cults and subsects came up. X-Men are political, you morons. The end. That is it. The X-Men are a political comic. Now you can argue, and the argument you should have, is that while yes, they are based on politics, that does not necessarily mean that they have to soapbox a specific ideology. And that's true. But the X-Men are a political comic. Let's not even go with Stan for the past 40 years going, true believers, I made this as a response to the Civil Rights Act, and it was generally our way of being able to handle that topic without directly going, political with it. Or however he would in a non-impressionist voice. Okay? We're not going to omit that, because if a creator has to say, this is the politics I wanted in this book, outside of what's apparent in the book, then it doesn't matter. It's like Korra Asami, the whole ship from Legend of Korra. The creator can turn around and say, oh yeah, those two are totally lesbians, and it's okay. And that is the creator. Does it reflect in the show itself? Kind of, sort of, a little bit, if you want to read into it. Or J.K. Rowling's turning around and going, Dumbledore is totes gay for Grindelwald. Okay, awesome. Are you going to reflect that in the script for the thing you're writing? Well, no, of course not, because then it would, and that would be a negative, because now it's like, okay, you said that, but it's not reflected in the work. The X-Men are political, because it is very reflected in the work, that they are based on a political mindset. Let's go with X-Men number 1, just number 1. Not even going into any of the stuff after. Magneto, a member of the mutant race, who is preaching violence against humans because he's okay with the violence against humans if it means that his side wins. He is the negative extremist view. He is the Black Lives Matter, the people using the Black Lives Matter movement to chant, kill the pigs, and then actively shoot at cops, expecting that it'll be good for their side or whatever. It is the bad kind of politics, or it's the bad, negative, extremist, militant view of a certain group. Then you have the X-Men, who, yes, are technically led by a rich white guy who also really wants Jean's jailbait butt. But his views are that we can coexist. We can find equilibrium. We can all be treated equally. And in doing so, he created a group of child soldiers, granted, to fight against the negative aspects of that community. It's basically the difference between, it's basically a weaponized version of the free hugs movement, if that makes any sense. Okay? That is it. That is simple. That is the first issue. The first issue, here is the premise of the series. Here's the good guys battling against the negative aspects of their community. That is something that comic gators and anti-comic gators kind of don't actually understand most of the time is that you have to police your own group, or else everyone is going to focus in on the fact that there's constant death threats coming from the Comicsgate community towards people and an asshole-ish nature coming from them. Or, similar with the anti-Comicsgate group, no one's going to police them because, well, you get a pat on the head if you side with anyone because it's okay. That is the, air quote, proper way to think. And again, I'm not saying that either side is 100% bad. Okay? But that's me skirting that idea. We're going to focus on the X-Men because I have a lot I would want to rant about, and I probably will because, again, I have nothing written for this. This is me just stream of conscious. Okay? Okay. Now then, that's X-Men number 1. But what about the other things the X-Men have done? Okay, if you need someone to spell out for you how the Church of Humanity crucifying students of the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters on the front fucking lawn, they're crucifying them on the lawn to better their side. If you don't know how that's political, you're stupid. Now you could argue, well, that's religious, that's not political. Religion and politics are not that different, especially organized religion. Organized religion is the same as any other group or tribe in that they want to politically better their own party. It's the same as political parties. It's the same as organized religion. It's the same as using your goddamn group. You can go, I have this is my ideology, so therefore I will defend that ideology, and that's fine. But the second you join into a group, and now you're defending that group, you no longer are defending that ideology. You're defending your tribe. You are helping make the trench warfare of Twitter last longer. Okay, we are at World War I right now, levels of so many people are lost in the no man's land that ultimately, if you're in the no man's land, you don't have the same reach as someone who's pro or anti because you're not in the trenches with them. But then there's the third grouping of people who know that both sides have positives and negatives. But no one wants to see the negatives of their side. You know who that is? That is Magneto. That is going, well, my Brotherhood of Mutants, they weren't evil mutants originally. My Brotherhood of Mutants are me and my group. They are my leaders. They will help me better my goal. That is mutant supremacy. Which also reflects in Apocalypse, who pretty much takes that idea and goes, well, humans are not they are not the fittest species anymore. They deserve to be destroyed. And that leads into the Age of Apocalypse storyline and any other time Apocalypse pops up. Then you also have things like Schism, where you have Cyclops at the end of his rope because endangered species, that is what they are now, now they can't continue to replenish their ranks. So now Wolverine's like, okay, let's start a school again, which is always a weird thing for me. Okay, but then you have two different ideologies going at it. And that is it. It is a matter of the history of the X-Men. And you can argue that there have been points where it's not political. And that's true. There are points where the storyline can be just a quick, oh, here's Kitty Pryde telling a story to a young little baby Ilyana Rasputin. Or, okay, now we're dealing with leprechauns and Black Tom Cassidy. Which, a name like Black Tom has always made me go, well, that kind of should be political. It's a joke. That was only a joke. But if you think that the X-Men are not political, the problem isn't that... If you think that they're political, if you don't think they're political, if you go, well, I don't understand how one minority battling against the negative aspects of their own minority, or battling against human prejudice, or having to deal with the ramifications of actions of individuals in their group as political, you have no reading comprehension, or you haven't read. Or, and here's the one that I am fairly certain is why a lot of people are now coming forward and going, oh, they're not political, they shouldn't be political. It's because your fearless leader, TM, said so. rather than being able to, and that is a negative that comes up a lot in any fandom, because guess what? You're a fandom. Technically, you are a militarized group of fandom, but that is not the point. The point is that if Richard Meyer continues going, oh, this is bad, Comics and Diversity has the problem where it's basically utilizing the Anita Sarkeesian school of, if I get onto people and get them riled and get them going, I make money. And I know that you're thinking, oh, that's not true. He's our friend. He helps us. Yes, a lot of cult leaders are like that. A lot of people, members of cults, don't really realize they're in a cult until they're sacrificing a baby. I know, again, that is an extreme view of that. Okay? And it's the same thing on the other side. Because Renfremus or SJW Spider-Man really makes bank, and I don't know if they actually monetize anything. I doubt it, because I think they're Twitter famous, but they get pats on the head. They now have clout. They now have power, because now they have followers, and enough followers that they can pretty much sway people, which to people, especially who maybe didn't have the best upbringing, that by itself is the greatest fucking feeling ever. So, that's the point. X-Men are political. Anyone who tells you otherwise is trying to sell you something. Okay? And the problem with that stems from the fact that no one wants to be wrong. If you find so much entertainment value in what someone says, that's great. That is amazing. But that does not equal them being right. But you want to defend what they say because you like them. You agree with some of what they say, so that must mean that the other things that you may not think about has to be along the same line of thinking as you. Me personally, I share videos from creators that I feel deserve more credit because they don't have a lot of, they don't get a lot of views, but because me and them generally have the same opinion, instead of me redoing first issues for 112th time because no one watches my stuff because I actually critique and I have my own personal view, it becomes I share them because they agree, they generally align with my way of thinking. And I don't mean that in like, oh, here's a pro SJ video, or or SG, sorry. And anything like that, because I don't give a damn about your politics. My side of the third group that isn't pro or anti on that is all about content and context. Okay? It is about, hey, is the comic good? Yes, here's why. No, here's why. By going, hey, this is terrible because them women's is in charge, and guess what? And yes, this is another regression to totally a different topic. The problem I had with the Marvel milkshake scandal was that it became people bitching, 10 to 15 people making asshole-ish comments, and then guess what? Marvel utilized it to rally more revenue. Marvel as a company doesn't give a damn about your political beliefs, be they pro or anti. What they care about is the bottom line. Now that trickles down to creators, okay? That trickles down to, wow, Kelly Thompson will get another series. I actually like Kelly Thompson. I'm just using her as an example similar to how I used Marguerite Bennett, despite the fact that I really like her, on my At the End of the Day video, where I also discuss this more in depth and a lot more facts are given on this. Marvel cares about the bottom line. Okay? Kelly Thompson and Kurt Busiek and Gail Simone, they care about having a job. Okay? So if Mockingbird has the standard Insta sales for number 1, but the sales are going down, what is Kelly going to do? Easy. Pop the crowd so that people remember Mockingbird exists because of oversaturation. And that would lead to my last major video on oversaturation in comic books. Okay? They don't give a damn about individuals. They actually don't care who buys comics. Because right now, their sales Marvel as a multi-million-dollar conglomerate, a part of a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, cares about sales. And their sales come from Diamond. Their sales comes from the retail buys. Yes, there are direct sales, and we are finally starting to enter a period where we can see who actually is direct buying. But ultimately, they care that your local comic shop bought 1,000 issues of Black Panther because of the hype surrounding it. Because there is a hype machine to push forward, hey, buy this comic. Similar to how if you've got like comic book resources, I fucking hate comic book resources on a ground level because they don't care about actually talking about the comics they want. There are certain people who do, but they have the clout that they can say whatever they want. But you will not find an honest review of something from Marvel. Like IGN gave 7s and 8s and even 9s to Civil War 2, even though 90% of readers turned around and said, this is terrible. Anyways, back to the X-Men. And this is where it comes into play again. The X-Men are political. You can argue that they stopped really being, about politics when the mouse bought Marvel. And you're kind of right. I think they really focused on AVX, which should have had more of a political leaning, especially since, the superhuman registration rights and Civil War and everything like that really played into the X-Men going, y'all motherfuckers was never here for us, so screw you. There was a lot of tension between the two groups, and had it not been an editorial mandate to push the Avengers over the X-Men, because the X-Men have a long history of being their top book, more so than Avengers, and it just becomes a matter of it. I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase this. X-Men are political, even when they're not, I think is the best way to say it. Because even if they do a book about Avengers versus X-Men, you can read into it, you can infer, you can interpret, and everything like that, because of the history of the groups. But that doesn't mean that it's not political, or that doesn't mean that you as a consumer need to read it as a political thing. That is where reading, comprehension, caring, what you want, what you see is what you get, as bad as that 90s catchphrase is. If you want it to be escapism, there's a ton of X-Men escapist stuff. The Shi'ar Empire, despite you being able to play into how different cultures perceive minority groups and everything like that, that is actually something that is interesting. Ultimately, you could say that the Phoenix Saga, the Dark Phoenix Saga, isn't political because it's meant on a character personal level, which is fine, except politics paint individuals. It does. As much as we don't want it to, it does. It do. So, what's the bottom line? I've ranted on enough about this. The bottom line is that X-Men are political books. Anyone who said no they're not is wrong. Period. They are wrong. Anyone who's trying to say that the X-Men are the best political books is also wrong. Or that soapboxing and 2x4 politics is good, they're also wrong. It matters, the only thing that has ever mattered in entertainment, and comic books as a whole are just an entertainment medium, which is something that I always get really angry about when people only want to talk about superhero comics, because superhero comics are relatively new, or rather, they are relatively new in the modern way we think about them, because even Superman, back in the Golden Age, before superheroes lapsed into after World War II, when superheroes lapsed and we went back to the detectives and the dramas and everything like that, they are relatively new because that style was very different than what the modern ideology is. But ultimately, if you feel that X-Men are not, political, you need to read more X-Men. Or you need to not be 16 years old. Or you need to have better reading comprehension. Okay? I have never, in my lifetime of being a comic fan, I learned to read off of mid-80s X-Men comics and the original West Coast Avengers. And basically, early to mid-80s Marvel is what I learned to read off of. So you can't turn around and go, oh, well, it's not this, that, or the other thing. And then there's always the people who go, well, you're not a real fan because you don't know about this. Guess what? I have been reading them. And the only time I stopped was after The Mouse, and really, the biggest time I stopped reading X-Men, the only time I actually really stopped reading X-Men was during the Inhumans push. Because the second they started screwing over the X-Men on a meta level, I'm out. I'm done. There's no positive you can do because it is about the characters and it's about a personal opinion. And that is my personal opinion. Is it getting better? Yes. The fact that people are bitching about X-Men Red as though it's not an X book because how dare it be under the mouse? It's totally SJW. The X-Men is an SJW book. If you want to get onto the, well, would it be SJW or wouldn't be? Similar to Darwin Cook would not be a comic skater. X-Men has always been a politically left-leaning book. You may not like it. You may never have actually realized it because you were reading it for the escapism or for Jean's boobs or the fact that Cyclops is the best character ever. You could be reading it for any of these billions of reasons, but that does not stop it from being a political book. What it does is show you that good writing, or even bad writing, good writing doesn't make you think politically. Cap No More was a very politically driven book, but it was written in such a way that the context of the character and the content reflected who the character was, so it felt like a natural story. It was not soapboxing into being Steve Rogers' Secret Empire. It was not so over the top that you would think, oh my god, this is fucking trash. Okay, it's another problem that I do have with a lot of creators, is that we also aren't allowed to say, wow, y'all really didn't do well on that, because the voices who say that generally will not get the pop that someone who goes, hey, look at my review of how Nick Spencer's the best writer ever, and will get it shared. I, for one, I actually gave Steve Rogers' Captain America, you know, the big Hail Hydra one, you know, the one that people under the ComicSgate banner burned? I gave that a mostly positive review. There was some weird stuff like Red Skull using suicide bombers. That was weird. But the Hail Hydra twist could have worked. Except, then the immediately next issue, you saw, oh wow, it's actually not. And then you had, you know, issue 2 was like really trying to backpedal and go, oh god, we have to pull our punch. And that's what hurt the book for me. And then Nick Spencer's writing of how, just point is that Nick Spencer is an amazing indie creator. I have yet to really read something from him from Marvel that was good. But that's because Marvel doesn't care about quality. Anyways, I've rambled on enough on this. If you do not think that X-Men is a political book, you're stupid. I can't phrase that anymore. Or rather, let me rephrase. I will try and phrase that a little bit more diplomatically. You are ignorant. Ignorance is not a bad thing. You are ignorant of what the concepts you're trying to argue are. Period. Like, it'd be me trying to argue, hey, ComicSgate is full of Nazis. In my experience, they're not Nazis. In my experience, they're kind of just regular asshole fans who have someone to rally behind. And then try and take a moral high ground. Similar to how the anti-side has a few assholes they rally behind, and then try and take the moral high ground. Objectively, neither side is 100% wrong, but neither side is 100% right. Okay? But me arguing that, I'm ignorant towards the fact that I don't have a ton of ComicGator. I don't have a ton of interaction with that group. The ones that I do generally are okay, but they're assholes. and they get wicked defensive. And if you don't actually align yourself 100% to say that you are also a comic gator, they are assholes. Seriously, though. Also, you can herd people. You can herd people's mentalities. That would be what propaganda would be. Or you can herd them physically, which anyone who's done City Planning 101 understands. Fuck, anyone who's played The Sims understands how you herd people. Anyways, so, but I will admit that because of that limited thing, I can't rightly go after every comic gator ever. Similar to the fact that Kurt Busiek may not understand that, yes, you can understand a philosophy you don't like. You can understand it without being an asshole about it, or even agreeing with it, where he's punching down. Okay? It's one of those things of neither side is good. And what we all need to do is stop and go, hey, if you want to believe the things you believe, go for it. But there's a difference between an asshole and a dick. An asshole has to take their time and spout as much waste as possible. Me, I'm a dick. I generally only get up when something's exciting's going around. So, the point is, don't be an asshole. Be a dick if you really need to have arguments with someone. But more than that, the X-Men are political. The end. If you have a disagree or you feel that I should totally point out more specific facts in like an actual video, let me know in the comments below. I do also have a Patreon in case anyone wants to make me a hypocrite and give me money. That was a horrible thing. Anyways, take care, and remember, regardless of your political things, keep reading what you like. Support what you like. Don't just be an asshole and try and beat down things you dislike. The world changes not because you yelled about something you disliked. The world changes when the world sees that doing something... The world changes when the positive view becomes better to take than the negative. If it is more profitable for them to say, screw it, let's bring back Cyclops, which we've seen has been more profitable, then they're going to do it. The world changes when the good outweighs the bad. And if you feel that creators punching down to lower creators is bad, instead of attacking the creator that you dislike, leave them alone. Pay no attention to them. The second they stop getting easy babyface pops because they're not the ones being yelled at, suddenly they stop being hot button creators. Similarly, if y'all motherfuckers don't like ComicSgate, then the simplest answer is stop backing Renfamous or SJW Spider-Man. The people who literally, most people wouldn't actually hear about ComicSgate if they weren't perpetually going, hey, look at this asshole, look at this asshole, look at this asshole. It also makes ComicSgate feel like they are being justified in saying that they are being attacked and anything they do is okay. Because y'all motherfuckers is attacking them. All this is actually based off of a tweet, and you should still be able to find the thread unless Mary got rid of it, from Sapphic Erotic. Wow. There's a website I had not said in a long time. Sapphic Geek and her thread, because she felt she did the amazing thing, and the thing that anyone who actually understands marketing general practices at all gets. She didn't bitch about EVS, Ethan Van Sciver. She didn't bitch about him. She didn't threaten his life. She didn't call him many, many different names we could, because I've met the guy. He's kind of a dick. Rather, what she did was say that because he's doing the covers on some Dynamite Comics book, she's not going to support that with her wallet. She is voting with her wallet. The thing that anyone who is anyone says you need to do, she did. And that is what both sides need to actually do. Now, you can argue, well, obviously the anti-side's not going to be supporting Jawbreakers or anything, which, Fair enough. But when you show the positive, when you show that it is not profitable for a company, for a person, for anyone to do what you dislike, when you show that it is profitable for the diversity books, which is great. But now that they're working on pushing all these diverse characters, now you need to go, okay, you wrote this character really blandly. Or you need to go, yeah, but now it's like Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel was a fine book. It was a good book. I haven't read the Marvelous one yet. But when she started as a character, it was, okay, what now? Fun reads, but the character did not develop at all for like 3 years. Literally it became, well, we'll just continue pumping this book because it's fun, people care about it. But that's why anyone turning around and going, well, Miss Marvel as a character was not really that good, isn't wrong either. Because fun reads generally don't equal fun, in-depth character stuff. Anyways, the point is be like Mary. Because me and her, we actually follow each other on Twitter. And the reason for me following her was because she bitched about the same thing I was bitching about. About how X-Men Dark Phoenix, New Mutants. New Mutants decided that Rain and Danny are going to be lesbians. They didn't give a damn about Karma. The character Karma, not Karma. Okay? Because they said, fuck that character. And then went for these because double diversity. Rain and Danny, they'll probably have a lesbian scene. Everyone wants to see Macy Williams in a lesbian scene anyways. Maybe. And that's it. Is like, that is how you are a good consumer. Okay? It's not going, goddamn, lesbians ruined X-Men. It's going, hey, company, you have the perfect answer right here for your diversity thing. Let's bitch about the fact that you decided to alter other characters to meet your quota. Okay? What we need is on both sides to stop and go, fuck, content quality matters. Okay, comics should be good. Comics should be good. And X-Men comics? X-Men comics are like the biggest mixed bag around because you have some phenomenal runs. But you also have Chris Claremont writing them in the Outback. Yes, I actually like the Outback era, but literally it was the stupidest, okay, why here kind of thing. It would have been funnier if they moved to Canada. Because Alpha Flight. Not the modern Marvel version of Alpha Flight, which is apparently the space. That's me bitching about something else. Point is, X-Men are political. If you do not believe they're political, you're a moron. You are ignorant of what you're trying to say because someone told you to think that way. So, this person is saying, don't think that way. Do not try and argue a topic you only peripherally know. Blech. Do not try and argue based on what someone else said. Okay, it is a stupid idea because guess what? The fact that you think X-Men aren't political, but you don't understand that, yes, their entire history is about politics. Their biggest villains are about their political stance in the world. Apocalypse, Magneto, Cassandra Nova, the Church of Humanity, the Right. Oh God, the Right. And that's not even counting your standard bigoted groups. And that's not even counting the infighting between them because of difference in political views. It's why I really hated US Avengers, because it went so over the top that it became a satire of what Marvel was trying to do. However, no one actually noticed that it was a political satire because it lined up with their viewpoints. Okay, this has gone on way too long, and I doubt anyone's going to listen to this to the end. So, Purple Monkey Dishwasher. Seriously though, like, share, subscribe, do whatever. Bitch it. If you do not agree with me, please leave a nice, concise reason why you don't think the X-Men are political below. I know it'll probably just be, Well, because I like escapism. Guess what? Escapism and politics are not separate things. You can have good political satire. You can have escapism and still be political. That's what the X-Men have done for decades. You Muppets! I'm the Comic Archivist. Leave it whatever below. If you want to flame me, go right ahead. If you want to give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, I don't care. I do this because I enjoy talking about comic books. It's why I have the retrospective on Catwoman, the original Guardians of the Galaxy. It's why I do ComicSins. That I actually stopped doing because a creator got really upset, thinking that most of my snark was real, or that... Anyways, point is, leave it all in below. If you want to help support me and the third option, which I'm just going to call, won't someone please think of the comics? Then please do that. But more than anything else, try and understand what you're talking about. Try and fathom the other side. You don't have to agree with the opposition to understand them. And with that, I'm out, Inklings.